Bro, this panel though. I don't know if you guys saw this already, but do you condemn Hamas Morgan had Francesca Fiorentini, Mustafa Barghouti, and some lackey for the Israeli regime on his show to debate. Okay, so we're gonna get to it in a second, but I just wanna start this out by saying, Piers Morgan, hi. Can you keep your fucking guests in line a little bit so that they don't interrupt everybody else? Listen, I'm glad that despite however I feel about Piers Morgan, he is one of the few shows that has been having more open debates with pro-Palestinian voices. But holy shit, he literally just lets people talk over someone over and over and over again. And Piers, I am listening to this as like a viewer and somebody who's trying to analyze it. Do you have any idea how fucking obnoxious it is to be trying to listen to a debate? And because you won't put some bitch on a leash, they just keep talking and talking and talking and talking over the other guests so you can't hear anything and you just sit there. Bro, you run the show. You're the moderator. Mute it. Mute the mic if they won't shut up, okay? It's so annoying. And it is not the guest's job to have to try to fight over the person interrupting them. Anyway, let's get to the first clip.
The current deputy mayor for Jerusalem and special envoy for the foreign ministry for Israel, Fleur Hassan Nahum, the founder and leader of the Palestinian National Initiative, Mustafa Barghouti, and for a US perspective, the commentator and podcast host, Francesca Fiorentini. Okay, Hassan Nahum, what is your response to what you've just been listening to?
I mean, I think if there's something more embarrassing than what happened on Saturday night, we just saw it now with this spokesman for the Iranian regime. He takes all of the anti-Semitic and all of the anti-Israel tropes and he puts it all in one sentence, ignoring the fact, talking about subjugation, that in his country, if a woman has 2 strands of hair showing, they arrest her and they beat her up in custody. They have been subjugating the Kurds for God knows how long. And all in all, what we are seeing here is a civilizational war between Iran that wants to bring back the world 500 years, that really doesn't believe in any of the liberal values that we all hold dear, against the free world. And what's really interesting...
I'm gonna stop you right there. Liberal values that we all hold dear. Okay, not only is that a lie, that we don't even have time to get into what a joke that is, but this is the kind of thing that she does throughout the entire interview. It is a constant attempt to dehumanize Arab people. Even at the end of the interview or debate, whatever, she goes, Israel just wants peace and we've normalized relations with Egypt and Jordan, but not the Palestinians. No matter what, there's just something about those people that we just can't negotiate with, you know? Who said that before? I feel like I heard that before coming out of the 1940s.
Who started this terrible situation? It's Netanyahu. No, wait, it's Netanyahu, who tried to distract the attention from the massacres he's committing in Gaza and the genocide that has taken the lives of 41,000 Palestinian, mostly civilian. 70% of them are civilians, women and children. 15,000 children slaughtered by Netanyahu and more than 10,000 women. You speak about women's rights. You don't care about the fact that Netanyahu killed 10,000 women, Palestinian women. And Netanyahu provoked Iran to have a retaliation. So that, shut up, please, and let me finish. Shut up. No, you are. If you interrupt me, I will not talk. You shut up and let me finish. No, you can't have the right to speak and not allow me the United Nations.
I gotta pause right there for a couple things. Number one, I love how she was, because in a previous clip that I didn't show here, she's going on and on about how oppressive Iran is to women. Okay. And then when he calls her out and is like, wait, you talk about women's rights. Like, what about all the Palestinian women that have been murdered in this genocide? She immediately starts doing genocide denial. Oh, those numbers are wrong. Those aren't right numbers. You know what? Those numbers probably aren't accurate. It's probably much higher. Most bodies, including the UN, that have actually looked at the numbers think that we are vastly underestimating them because of all the people under the rubble that haven't been counted. When they say 70% civilians, they're often saying 70% women and children. There are so many men, and we've talked about this in previous videos that there's been reporting on, that they will count any military age man, which can start at the age of 11 as a Hamas militant, regardless of whether there's any evidence for it or not. So men who are just, 17 and they get massacred, they'll just be counted as Hamas militants. So it is much higher than 70% civilian casualty rate.
If you interrupt me, I will not speak.
Very diplomatic.
Mr. Pierce, you have to be fair and run the show properly. Do you want to do that or shall I leave your show?
Don't lie.
Mute
Don't
her
lie about
fucking
numbers.
mic, Morgan. And then he rightly tells her to shut it because she won't stop talking. It's something that fucking Piers Morgan should have done. And then she comes at him with white, Western, feminist, Middle Eastern, crocodile tears about how he's being misogynistic. But you get the fuck out of here. I am so tired of that shit. No. You don't get to do genocide denial and come on here with your propaganda lies and your dehumanizing language and then interrupt him, and when he speaks back, you call him misogynistic. I am so done. This is not working. This is not working. For those of us who actually are paying attention to what is going on over there, your little, but I'm a woman and I'm white routine is not gonna work. Here, I'll do it. I'm white and femme presenting, so how about me? Shut the fuck up.
And so this whole situation was provoked by an unacceptable attack on a diplomatic mission. Even in wars, countries don't attack diplomatic missions of others. And in this case, Israel violated that law. He provoked also the war by attacking and killing 7 international aid workers, and he continues the genocide against Palestinians. The figures are correct because that's what the United Nations say. 41,000 Palestinians killed, including 7,000 under the rebel, including 15,000 children, including 10,000 women at least, and there are 76,000 other Palestinians injured. Israel is conducting 3 war crimes at the same time. The war crime of genocide, the war crime of ethnic cleansing, and the war crime of collective punishment. And that's why you have about 700,000 people now starving in the north, including 350,000 children. That is the reality. You spoke about terrorism. Who is the terrorist here? Is it the people who are struggling to get their freedom from the longest occupation in modern history?
Exactly. They are fighting for their freedom, and they have been living under occupation for decades. So of course she goes and responds and just lies and lies and lies and lies and lies, and they talk about how it's a war, even though it's not a war, it's a genocide, which Francesca Fiorentini gets to in a second. I wanted to highlight too Francesca Fiorentini's comments on here because she does an amazing job, despite the fact that I've already forgot her name. This lackey tries to delegitimize her by saying like, I've never even heard of you. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to sit on this panel? What qualifications do you have to sit on this panel besides being a paid propagandist for the Israeli regime?
I'm coming at this as an American. I'm coming at this as someone who just paid their taxes far too much, if you ask me. I'm not a billionaire. They pay next to nothing. And my tax money went to funding what I believe is a genocide and what 57% of Biden voters say is a genocide. That just came out, whether you like it or not. And I also come at this as a mom, all right? I have an 18-month-old daughter, and there are 10,000 women in Gaza who were killed, and 6,000 of them were mothers. There are 19,000 orphans in Gaza right now, and 60,000 pregnant women who are giving birth in abject conditions, who are struggling to eat, to feed themselves, to feed their unborn children, and mothers who are struggling to even nurse because you need so many calories when you're a nursing mom, right? And they are starving. So that's where I'm coming at this from. Why? I'm asking President Biden, why are we continuing to fund this? And thankfully, in response to the Iranian attack, right, which whether or not you believe it was performative or real, whatever it was, Biden has actually, for the first time, hallelujah, argued for some amount of restraint, saying we're not going to go there in an offensive against Iran, depending on what Israel does. Now, that's fine, but also, I'm going to just point out, we're still funding them with billions of dollars of weapons. None of that money, none of that aid has been cut off, as up in arms and upset as some Israeli officials are. And final point, I need to be lectured about human rights. Oh, Iran doesn't have human rights. Look, I'm no fan of the Iranian regime. I don't come on here to stump for the Iranian regime. I don't stump for the American regime. I stump for humans and human rights. But it is funny that Israel, which has basically controlled its population and occupies an entire people in order to not make them citizens, in order to deny them fundamental human rights by design, that they are then lecturing other countries about what they do to their own people. Give me a break. We all see through this.
All excellent points by Fiorentini. And then if you heard at the end, she starts trying to go after going, oh yeah? How do you feel about the baby that Hamas is still holding?
18-month-old baby. What do you say to that?
A
ceasefire. They rejected a ceasefire 2 days
I'm sure you're
ago.
right.
You don't know your facts. I don't know who you are. I don't know what gives you credibility to come on the show. But I'm asking you as a mother.
Piers, can I ask
2
a
days
question?
ago, we could have already seen a ceasefire, and Hamas said no.
It's fucking maddening because she keeps asking her that over and over and doesn't let her answer. Like, Fiorentini tries to answer the question over and over again, and she just keeps going, how do you feel? Because she doesn't want the answer. Because if any of you guys actually gave a flying fuck about that baby or any of the hostages, you would be putting more pressure on your own government to do something to get a ceasefire. Remember, a ceasefire, the only thing thus far that has actually brought any hostages back. They don't want to talk about that though. They don't want to talk about video footage that just leaked yesterday of IOF soldiers beating the shit out of families. Families of the hostages that were protesting outside of Netanyahu's house. And she wants to deflect and do that as a mother routine. Right after Fiorentini just got done talking about all the babies that have been bombed in Gaza. Like, no, I'm sorry. You don't get to do the as a mother as you continue to justify the mass slaughter of babies in Gaza.
were not even born when Hamas came into power. How can you call this also a war, Piers? Let's stop calling this a war. A war is when two equal sides actually fight. There's battle lines, there's this and that. I see IDF soldiers parading around with women's lingerie in the homes that they have raided, mocking them, mocking the trinkets, the items, the loved things that the Palestinian people will never be able to hold ever again. That is not a war. This is a genocide. This is a mockery of what should be a so-called war.
Well, I certainly think Hamas knew exactly what they were doing when they did what they did on October the 7th, and they knew that the scale of response would be what it was. I think Hamas has
What are we
shown
going to do? But what are we
willful.
doing?
Well, hang on. I just want to say, I think Hamas has shown a willful and wanton disregard for the lives of Palestinian people. You can argue that
But what
Israel
about
has
that?
too.
And the
But
IOF
you
has
cannot
it?
argue. Well, I said you can argue that Israel has too, but you can certainly, I think, it's pretty clear and obvious that Hamas knew what the reaction was going to be.
No, it's incredible the way that he dodges that. So she brings up something that we really don't talk about on TikTok because we can't, because they'll take it down. Even though the IOF will constantly post TikToks of themselves doing deranged shit, the minute somebody makes a TikTok talking about it, they'll censor it. So you're most likely, if you mainly use TikTok, not seeing any of the shit that they've done. Because some of it is so graphic and so horrific, it can't really be shown on this platform. But after she details some of the things that they do, instead of actually responding to that, he immediately brings it back to, but Hamas! Yeah, but Hamas knew what they were doing, eh? That's a terrible accent. I shouldn't even try. So what's your implication there, Piers? You're saying that because Hamas knew what they were doing, that makes it okay that IOF soldiers take pictures of themselves with Palestinian women's lingerie, among all the other things they've done? Because it sure sounds like you're saying that. This is the type of gaslighting that they do to the Palestinians all the time. It's always, we're defending ourselves. This is defense, but Hamas. And around it goes. I would suggest that anyone who sees this, go watch the whole thing. It's a very interesting interview overall, so definitely check that out. Free Palestine, and good job to those two.